Chapter 596. Preparations from long ago. Mo Yao's shock and suspicion. The refinement Pathgu masters had solemn expressions while quickly moving into formation. Gray rays of light gradually blossomed and merged into one dot under everyone's expectant gaze. He Lulan waved his hand and threw the two-edged owner token into the air. The owner token floated in midair, and the giant gray radiance which had been condensed in the round formation shot towards the owner token. The gray radiance was so dazzling that one could not look at it directly. Haha, this is the moment. Fang Yuan had been observing this from the outside, and sent a thought at this time. The two-edged owner token immediately disappeared, landing in his hand the next moment. He was in control of this floor. Teleporting a small owner token was as simple as breathing. Without the owner token, the gray radiance immediately collapsed, and the killer move gray meltdown forcibly ended. The refinement Pathgu masters in the round formation gave a frightened howl, puffing out blood, with almost all of them dying from the backlash in that instant. Spurt. He Lulan, who was in the center of the formation, was no exception to this, spurting out a mouthful of blood and retreating back several large steps like he had received a heavy impact. My owner token. He lost his self-control and howled with an extremely shocked, angered, and doubtful expression. Everyone was also stupefied by this change. Sun Shi-Han was baffled. Tang Miaoming covered her mouth, and Pei Yin-Fei was also despondent. Even Mo Yao's will was raving in Fang Yuan's mind. Brat, what did you do? His owner token has no more than 2 edges now. Adding in your 6 edges, it is only 8 edges. What are you in such a hurry for? Wouldn't it be good if you had waited for his owner token to rise to 4 edges? You don't know shit. Fang Yuan sneered, and under the cover of his large sleeve, calmly put away the 2-edge owner token. The whole process happened under the bystanders' gazes, but it was completed in total secret without incurring any suspicion. What the hell happened? Yi Lui Sang rushed towards He Lulan with a fretful expression and asked, "Where is the owner token?" How would I know?" He Lulan's eyes seemed to shoot out flames of anger. His voice raised an octave higher as he burst out with foul language. What the F***ck happened? In the past records of history, there had never been a situation where the owner token suddenly disappeared. Gray Meltdown had been used so many times by all the large forces and the winners in the past. How could it suddenly fade away in He Lulan's hand? Damn it, how do we go on without the owner token? Fang Yuan also hurried over at this moment. His brows were furrowed into a knot, and he had a genuine and heavily anxious expression, making others sympathize with him. The killer move which everyone had placed high hopes on failed at the crucial moment. The 2-edge owner token was also inexplicably lost. The green vine's offensive was becoming more fierce like a flash flood, not giving anyone the time for a breather. Morale had fallen to the abyss, and many started fleeing in disorder. It's over. We are done for. Shi Shui mumbled. Will I die in this place? Is this the final ending? Tai Bai Yunxing laughed bitterly. In this recent period, he was being tormented by his conscience, and his body looked extremely weak and thin. However, the next moment, someone shouted in joy. We can leave. Someone left. We can leave. Fang Yuan did not want to get rid of all these people in one go and left a lifeline, allowing the Gu masters to freely enter and exit this floor. If He tribe was completely annihilated, he would definitely attract the all-out revenge of He tribe's Gu immortals. Moreover, Fang Yuan still required Tai Bai Yunsheng to refine landscape as before Gu. Therefore, the collapsed and despairing army started retreating. I am actually alive. This time was too terrifying. I don't want to enter there again. Boo-hoo-hoo, father, you died so miserably. The plaza around the True Young building became a scene of gloomy misery. He Lulan had convened a large army and entered the tower with grand and vigorous momentum, but such a change while leaving the tower was beyond the expectations of almost everyone. He Lulan's expression was ashen as he glanced at the plaza before leaving without any words. He tribesmen followed behind him, silent and heads lowered. Yi Lui Sang heaved a long sigh and shook his head, leaving the plaza. Tai Bai Yunxing had a complex expression as he looked at He Lulan's receding figure. After this expedition, it will probably be difficult to form a presentable party within a short period of time. Tai Bai Yunxing was wrong. The very next day, He Lulan again formed a large army and attacked the second round. So what if he lost the owner token? Even if he could not use Gray Meltdown, he could use brute force to pass the round. He Lulan had deceived 2 great Gu immortals in his pledge to take revenge. He could no longer turn back. He must force himself to continue on. However, during the night of the defeat, Fang Yuan had quietly entered 88 True Young building. You are too. Impatient, you now only have 8 edges. What can you do now? Mo Yao sneered in his mind. Fang Yuan walked slowly along the secret treasury corridor while gently touching the crystal wall. Looking on his treasure after treasure swept past his gaze, he had a slight smile on his face, replying calmly to Mo Yao's will. You are an impressive refinement path grandmaster, a fairy of spirit affinity house. Just speak clearly if you want to ask, why probe so superficially? Mo Yao heard this and immediately changed her expression, smiling coquettishly. Young man, looks like you already have a plan. That goes without saying. Fang Yuan's steps paused and he lightly stroked the right crystal wall, taking out a treasure stored within. Ever since he had refined the guest halt steel, he could take out any treasures around this distance. Fang Yuan walked a few steps further and took out 3 goo worms on top of that. He then moved to the left crystal wall and took out the objects within. As this went on, Fang Yuan had taken out tins of goo recipes, over 100 goo worms, all kinds of information on inheritances, and over 20 documents on cultivation insights. Fang Yuan kept around 80 of the goo worms outside while sending the rest into storage. Goo worms. Mo Yao had observed the whole process quietly, getting more curious as time went on. These goo worms that Fang Yuan left out here did not match together. She really could not tell what he was doing. The video of Central Continent's goo immortals attacking Imperial Court Blessed Land in his previous life appeared in Fang Yuan's mind. There were altogether 11 goo immortals who attacked Imperial Court Blessed Land, men and women, each with extraordinary presence. A female immortal was the leader. A domineering aura lingered around her which pressured people. Other goo immortals were cautious and respectful towards her. She was known as Fairy Black Moon. A half-mask covered her nose, mouth, and cheeks, only revealing the upper half of her face, which showed her strong contours, sharp and long brows, bright eyes, and a heroic aura. A dark gold armor covered her whole body, bringing a heavy feeling of suppression on any that looked at it. Fang Yuan's current actions were replicating Fairy Black Moon's actions to the smallest details. The treasures he took out were actually of great background. Countless years back, Central Continent's goo immortals sent outstanding goo masters to infiltrate into northern plains. The goo masters would pass some rounds with high-grade evaluation, entering the treasure room and arranging these treasures here. The whole process consumed close to a millennium. Fang Yuan walked past the guest halt steel and walked over 300 steps into the long crystal corridor before stopping. It is here. He looked around him and, after confirming it, began to put the goo worms he had taken earlier into the crystal wall. Whether it was left or right, top or under his feet, they were placed in a certain pattern. As for the original treasures within the crystal wall, Fang Yuan took some, left some, and shifted the position of some. This, could it be? Mo Yao was bewildered. She had been watching carefully and had gradually inferred some clues with her refinement path grandmaster attainment. In the range of tens of steps, after Fang Yuan's adjustments, the goo worms in the crystal wall had ingeniously formed a formation. Right. This is precisely the refinement path killer move Gray Meltdown. No, to be even more exact, this killer move originates from Gray Meltdown, but its effects are much stronger. Fang Yuan chuckled. What in the world are you trying to do? Mo Yao asked. Fang Yuan's gazed eerily, a confident smile appearing on his face. Just watch. He then sent out several goo worms which floated in the air. The goo worms in the surrounding walls started to shake slightly one by one. Dust seemed to rise up in the air. The dust gradually became denser till it formed a thick gray fog. The gray fog kept on accumulating and soon entirely submerged Fang Yuan. He could not even see his own hands. Fang Yuan stood within the gray fog with his eyes closed and his right hand clutching the six-edge owner token as he tried to carefully sense something. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and shouted, "Come back! Fixed immortal travel!" Rumble. The crystal corridor shook strongly and 88 True Young building had a sudden tremor. The 21st floor where 17 rounds still remained, disintegrated into nothingness. The rewards for the 17 rounds penetrated through space and appeared before Fang Yuan. Among them, one goo worm was dispelling a rank 6 aura, shining with a green gem-like luster, and flying elegantly like a green jade butterfly. Its powerful presence pushed the rest of the goo worms to the side. What else could it be but fixed immortal travel, immortal goo? This is fixed immortal travel. Mo Yao blurted out. Fang Yuan stored the other rewards into storage goo worms while the immortal goo fixed immortal travel was left outside. Sitting on his shoulder, immortal goo fixed immortal travel was a rank 6 goo and at its peak state. His mortal aperture could not store it. Fang Yuan had not stored flying bear phantom goo either. instead directly holding it in his pocket. There is one more. Fang Yuan licked his lips in excitement. Another explosive sound rang out. 88 True Young building shook greatly. The 12 remaining rounds of the 34th floor were immediately passed. The rewards appeared in front of Fang Yuan out of thin air, and one goo among them, an immortal goo that looked like nothing special, just like a lump of earth. It was immortal goo gruel mud. Mo Yaozwell blurted out the name. Fang Yuan laughed and stored the other rewards while putting the gruel mud into his pouch. Back then, he had buried fixed immortal travel and gruel mud deep under the ground, waiting for this precise moment. When 88 True Young building condensed, it plundered the whole of Northern Plains. This was the arrangement of an immortal venerable. His might extended up into the heavens and down into the abyss. Nothing could stop his overwhelming force. Immortal Gu Wooden Chicken had escaped the pursuit of Shuesong Zi and Heibai, but was still captured by 88 True Young building in the end. The wild immortal Gu ended up like that, while Fang Yuan's meticulously buried immortal Gu did not even have the will to resist, and were naturally collected by 88 True Young building. After the capture, they were placed separately as the last rewards for the 21st and 34th floor. But due to Giant Sun's being in hibernation, the two immortal Gu had all along been in a half-refined state, just as Fang Yuan had planned for. Brat, who in the world are you? This is not a small arrangement. You were actually able to mobilize two immortal Gu. Tell me, which region are you from? Which force sent you here? Mo Yao was unable to hold back after she saw this, and began to ask questions after questions. Chapter 597, True Inheritance Secluded Domain. Unexpected event. The appearance of two great immortal Gu was way out of her expectations. Mo Yao was very surprised. What was even more scary was, Fang Yuan had made ample preparations. The Gu worms he used were originally treasures kept inside the crystal walls. His killer move was even more perfect than Grey Meltdown, and had stronger effect. To get to this point, it was not something a single person could achieve. In fact, this could not be achieved with merely decades of setup. Huge amounts of strength and effort needed to be invested, at least hundreds of years of infiltration in order to hide all the Gu worms inside the crystal walls, and to prevent the Gu worms from being taken away by people. They needed to prepare several of each Gu. All in all, this was not something a person or an ordinary force could accomplish. It had to be a super force with Gu immortals at least. Against Mo Yao's suspicion, Fang Yuan smiled lightly and did not speak. All these were the setup of Central Continent's Gu immortals. But Mo Yao had died long ago. Her will was slumbering within Water Pavilion and was unaware of the changes in the outside world. Fang Yuan was someone who had been reborn. He had a huge advantage using the Gu immortals setup. He could accomplish all of this successfully. To speak the truth, he should thank those Central Continent Gu immortals who went around to distribute the footage. Without the guidance of this clip, Fang Yuan would not be so sure of the inside information of 88 True Young building. His method was inherently the same as He Lu Lan's, but Fang Yuan was sensing his own immortal Gu, while He Lu Lan was sensing other people's mortal Gu. Refining an immortal Gu was at least 100 times as difficult as refining a mortal Gu. Thus, Fang Yuan was not in such a rush for time, unlike He Lu Lan. The two immortal Gu were constantly in a state of half-refinement. Most importantly, the refinement path killer move that Fang Yuan activated was the revised version of Grey Meltdown that Central Continent's Gu immortals had painstakingly researched in. It had an amazing effect, freeing the Gu master and saving them the trouble of facing backlash, as 88 True Young building would be the one enduring the pressure. At the same time, he had to thank all of the Gu masters who charged through the rounds enthusiastically. If the rounds were intact, Fang Yuan would need to traverse 100 rounds to communicate with the immortal Gu. It would be filled with difficulty. But there were only 17 rounds left on the 21st floor. And the 34th floor had even fewer rounds, at 12. After Fang Yuan successfully took the two immortal Gu, these two floors were passed automatically. He took out the two owner tokens. The glass owner token was still at 6 edges. After all, it was a cheat item and was not authentic. Meanwhile, the owner token snatched from He Lu Lan had turned from 2 edges to 4 edges. Combining the two, they were 10 edges. 10 edges, that meant that Fang Yuan had met the minimum requirements to receive an immortal venerable inheritance. Immortal venerable inheritance. Fang Yuan chuckled. According to what was shown in the footage, he combined the two owner tokens and created the 10-edge owner token. Swoosh. The next moment, he vanished on the spot. The scenery before him changed drastically. When Fang Yuan finally reacted, he found himself in an area of void. The surroundings were pure darkness. There was neither heaven or earth. Fang Yuan was floating silently in the air. Several traces of green or red starlight shone from far away. This is 88 true young buildings, true inheritance, secluded domain. To think that after so many years, I can come here again. Imo Yaozhuo was surprisingly dejected and downcast, as she muttered to herself, You've been here before. Fang Yuan's heart jumped. Back then. I'm not going to talk about it. It is your greatest fortune to be able to come here. Although with 10 edges, you can only receive the lowest grade ordinary true inheritance. But this will not hinder you from gaining some knowledge and experience. What you are going to see will surely broaden your vision. You will never forget it. In just a moment, Imo Yaozhuo went back to normal. Fang Yuan laughed. Imo Yao's arrogant tone did not make him angry. In fact, he nodded in agreement. Giant Son Immortal Venerable, I cannot compare to him yet. Today, this will indeed hugely broaden my vision. Saying this, he waved his hands like he was swimming in water, moving his body forward slowly. In the video from Central Continent in his previous life, there were many details omitted during this period. Central Continent's Gu Immortals invested more heavily than Fang Yuan. They used more than 10 Immortal Gu to raise the owner token to 43 edges. They gained a lot, but all of the gains were concealed. Such an act was no doubt a defensive measure to prevent attracting the greed of the viewers. This, however, increased Fang Yuan's interest and anticipation towards Giant Sun's true inheritances. He followed after a blood-red starlight. Getting closer to it. He got closer, the starlight became brighter, and eventually, Fang Yuan stopped before a round circular light. This lump of red starlight was the size of a bowl, silently floating around. This is an ordinary true inheritance. If you want to understand the contents, you just need to let your consciousness enter it. Imo Yao advised at the appropriate timing. Fang Yuan was carefully navigating with his mind, as images flashed before him. A grand and huge ancient forest, ancient and tall trees, beasts at the size of mountains. Ha ha ha. A person with a broad shoulder and thin waist was laughing with his head facing up. His image was blurred, but his skin was covered in rainbow colors, as ancient totems of every description were carved on it. His dominating presence pervaded heaven and earth. He stepped on the gray clouds and treaded strong winds. His purple hair was fluttering as there were seemingly flames burning within his double pupil eyes. Fang Yuan saw this and his heart was pounding. He could feel difficulty breathing. He recognized this person immediately. This is one of the 3 demon venerables of the olden antiquity era, reckless savage demon venerable. He is facing the immemorial desolate beast, primordial ash owl. Strange, why is there a demon venerable's item within Giant Sun's inheritances? What's so strange about this? Giant Sun Immortal Venerable was the venerable of an era, the supreme ruler of heaven and earth, the invincible being in the universe. He searched the entire world and obtained an item of reckless savage demon venerable, placing it inside his building for his descendants. This is very normal. Imo Yao said. Immemorial desolate beast, overlords that had existed within heaven and earth since the immemorial era. They had rank 8 Gu immortal battle strength. This primordial ash owl had a bird head and beast body. It had 2 pairs of golden pupils and a dragon's horn on its head. Its muscular body was covered in thick rainbow feathers. Its bestial aura could overwhelm the world. Its limbs moved quickly and could easily destroy mountains and rivers. With one growl, its voice could travel 10,000 li, causing ripples in the air of the entire world. Reckless savage demon venerable praised. Good beast. The primordial ash owl had intelligence that could rival men. It got angry upon hearing that. Shooting out thunder like that of the heavens from its mouth, the blue thunderbolt shot out and pierced 10,000 li into the sky. Instantly arriving before reckless savage demon venerable, Fang Yuan's expression changed. The magnitude of the lightning and thunder was beyond his imagination. Right now he was like an ant. But even if it was his Gu immortal self from his past life, he could not survive for 3 breaths time from this. But reckless savage demon venerable did not move at all. He allowed the frenzied thunderbolt to hit his body directly. From within the electricity, his bronze-colored body was intact, shining brightly. His muscles were like stone blocks, and all the totems on his body were like living beings, as all sorts of fierce beasts were roaming on his body. From within the exploding lightning plasma, reckless savage demon venerable's face showed an expression of enjoyment. He laughed heartily as he punched with his right fist. Bam! Immediately, heaven and earth changed colors as winds and clouds moved violently. The lightning vanished slowly, mountains were trembling, and forests were weeping. With just one punch, the intense winds blew like an apocalypse. The clouds in the sky vanished. The heavens were stripped bare, and permeating sunlight dispelled all darkness. Just one punch. With the intensity of the force that repelled ghosts and deities, the primordial ash owl was crying out pitifully. It was an immemorial desolate beast, an overlord of a region. It was untamable and wild earlier, giving off a strong aura, but the next moment, its bones were crushed to bits as its rainbow feathers floated in the air. Its golden pupils were full of fear, and it laid on the ground, like a dead dog. Fang Yuan was completely moved. This was the first time he had seen the attack of a venerable, reckless savage demon venerable. With the prowess of rank 9, he was truly invincible in all heaven and earth. 9999th Ashal. Reckless savage demon venerable said plainly, opening his palm and grabbing the air. The next moment, the primordial ash owl was held by a formless strength. It was like a chicken that was grabbed by a butcher. It was helpless and was shrieking for help. Transform. Reckless savage demon venerable's body shuddered. He expanded along with the wind, becoming a giant in an instant. What a true giant! He was as tall as heaven and earth, as if he could grab the sun if he wished. No tribulations could move him, as he could barely be held by the universe itself. The giant slowly opened his mouth, as the primordial ash owl struggled intensely, and yet to no avail as it was sent into the giant's mouth. The giant swallowed in one mouthful, chewing several times with a sound as if a mountain collapsed, lightning striking everywhere. It was loud as thunder. With a gulp, the giant sent the primordial ash owl into its stomach. He actually ate an immemorial desolate beast, a rank 8 level existence, just like that. The prowess of reckless savage, it was truly terrifying. After eating this rank 8 desolate beast, the giant patted his stomach. The sound was loud as thunder, but his expression was like he did not have enough. And on his belly, there was a new totem, in the form of the primordial ash owl, but among the innumerable totems on his body, it was not eye-catching. The giant seemed to have sensed something as he suddenly turned around and looked straight at Fang Yuan. Ugh! Fang Yuan fell on the ground like he had suffered a huge blow, vomiting out a mouthful of blood in the process. His soul was trembling intensely. A strong sense of dizziness assaulted him, only recovering after a long time. Gasp, gasp, gasp. He breathed roughly, barely opening his eyes. His eyes could not take it either, as 2 streams of bloody tears flowed out, flowing from his face towards the ground. But thankfully, this place did not restrict goo worms. Such an injury could be easily healed with goo worms. This is the test of the inheritance? Fang Yuan healed himself as he asked. What sort of test is this? In his mind, Mo Yao is gloating, replying in an arrogant tone. This inheritance has a trace of reckless savage demon venerables will within it. Only goo immortals could withstand it. But after getting this inheritance, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had already modified it such that mortals could endure it. You owe it to Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's mercy that you are still alive. Fang Yuan snorted coldly. His mercy is only towards his bloodline descendants. What does that have to do with me? Anyway, Giant Sun true inheritances are not so easy to obtain. There is great danger inside. That is of course the case. But you have already survived this test, and remember that this true inheritance is only an ordinary true inheritance. With the 10-edge owner token, you already have the authority to inherit it. Mo Yao said. As expected, when Fang Yuan's mind entered, the red light lump opened its doors, as reckless savage demon venerable's figure did not appear again. Primordial Ashal transformation. Fang Yuan realized now that this was a transformation path killer move. This killer move could allow a goo immortal to transform into the primordial ash owl, gaining a huge boost in strength. Reckless savage demon venerable was the progenitor of strength path, but he was also the creator of transformation path. His strength could shake heaven and earth. He was the fiercest venerable out of the 10. At the same time, he could transform into countless fierce beasts, having an endless number of transformations, and he could even revive from a drop of blood. Fang Yuan did not hesitate. He let go of the red light lump and allowed it to fly away from him. Although the true inheritance was precious, it did not suit him currently. Fang Yuan was very calm and held even more expectations. To think that within Giant Sun's true inheritances, there would be something involving reckless savage demon venerable, and this particular inheritance was only the lowest grade ordinary true inheritance. He could not imagine what other ordinary true inheritances there could be. As for the even greater unparalleled true inheritance, what would they be? He moved his arms and swam towards another area within this silent and dark void. Chapter 598. 3 olds, 3 true inheritances. Using Fang Yuan worked hard to swim towards a jade light. This lump of jade light was harder to get closer to compared to the red light from before. It was flying slowly, continuously twisting and turning, as Fang Yuan chased after it for a while before managing to grab it. It was also as large as a bowl, and Fang Yuan's consciousness carefully entered it. An unspeakable force of vibration spread from the jade green light into Fang Yuan's body. Be careful, this is old immortal Kongju's item. In his mind, Mo Yao's will recognize this item and warned. Don't worry, it cannot escape. Fang Yuan's tone was certain. He grabbed onto this light lump tightly. Idiot, I am not referring to that. Quickly let go. Mo Yao said this, but it was already too late. The mystical vibration spread from within the jade light, all the way into Fang Yuan's aperture. Fang Yuan's aperture started vibrating. In his 90% filled aperture C. Waves were crashing violently. Swish, swish, swish. The huge waves crashed on the surrounding aperture walls. The rank 5 peak stage crystal clear walls were starting to develop cracks from the pressure of the waves. Fang Yuan was shocked. This true inheritances test was very peculiar. It was hard to defend against. It actually directly affected the Gu Master's aperture. Lad, quickly cut off your arms using Gu worms. Only by making a sacrifice can you save your life. Mo Yao's will shouted in Fang Yuan's mind. Cut off my arms? Fang Yuan's expression sank. Sweat was forming on his forehead. He tried letting go of it, but this lump of jade light gave off an extremely strong suction force, keeping Fang Yuan's hands tightly attached to it. Fang Yuan could not get free from it, and the vibrations in his aperture were getting stronger. I got it. In the moment of crisis, Fang Yuan had an inspiration as he quickly moved the primeval essence in his second aperture into his first aperture. The vibration moved into the second aperture through the primeval essence. The second aperture also started vibrating uncontrollably, but this way, the two apertures were enduring this together. And the first aperture's crisis was soothed to a great extent. Mo Yao gasped. As the jade light became dim and the vibrations vanished, it seemed that Fang Yuan had passed the test. What is going on? You have two apertures. Mo Yao said. With two apertures enduring the test together, although the aperture walls were cracked, they did not break. Lad, you hid this very deeply. You actually have two apertures. Second aperture. To think that the rumors that have been going around have been confirmed by you. Mo Yao said with deep emotions. Fang Yuan was not willing to talk about this. He asked instead, you mentioned old immortal Kongju earlier. Is it that refinement path supreme grandmaster from the olden antiquity era? That's right, it's him. Refinement path supreme grandmaster. Even throughout human history, since ancient times, there had only been three. Future generations called them the Three Olds. They were the remote antiquity era's old eccentric Tian Nan, olden antiquity era's old immortal Kongju, and medieval antiquity era's refinement path supreme grandmaster long hair ancestor. Mo Yao continued recounting. Among them, old eccentric Tian Nan had a weird personality. He tried to refine the sky and ended up losing his life. Old immortal Kongju had the deepest research in apertures. He created and helped the 10 extreme physiques to become immortals. Before him, there had never been any cases where a person of the 10 extreme physiques rose to become an immortal. As for long hair ancestor, he had the longest lifespan and refined the most immortal Gu. 88 true young building was refined by him. In fact, there were rumors that he could refine lifespan Gu, causing old ancestor giant sun to attack Langya blessed land. Although there were no results from that. Mo Yao talked about many famous pieces of information. Three old beings, three supreme refinement grandmasters, each of them was a legend. They were the three peaks of refinement path in human history. Even rank 9 venerables could not mask their glory and reputation. Old immortal Kongju's inheritance tests the fated person's aperture. You actually had two apertures. You managed to get through luckily. Look, this inheritance is very good. It will be a huge help to you. Mo Yao continued. Fang Yuan's consciousness went in again. This inheritance was known as the Immortal Ascension Vital Information. It recorded old immortal Kongju's understanding of the immortal ascension process of all the different paths of Gu Masters, all the difficulties they might face and how to deal with those difficulties. It listed the most crucial points for rising to immortal. Fang Yuan assessed in his heart. Although this is not a Gu recipe or an immortal Gu, it has a huge value. In terms of theoretical guidance, if Gu Masters get it, it will not only help themselves, but even allow them to understand other paths. It is truly an important treasure. This immortal ascension vital information dates back to long ago. It might not be useful for the currently trending paths. After all, these years of development have caused the rise of many new paths. It is no longer as dull and simple as back in the olden antiquity era. What I want to remind you is, the essence of this inheritance is not the immortal ascension vital information itself, but Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's notes when he read through it. His assessment is like the summary of the most important points. It gets right to the point and is truly worth more than 1,000 gold. Moyo gave another shocking revelation. Old Immortal Kongju was a refinement path supreme grandmaster on par with long-hair ancestor. His research, along with the Immortal Venerable's notes, truly has immense value. When a Gu master reads it, it will greatly increase the chances of them successfully rising to immortal. In addition, using the perspective of an Immortal Venerable, they can develop in the right direction. Their Gu immortal journey would be guided, and they could avoid many pitfalls along the way. This inheritance had really shocking attraction, especially for geniuses like Fang Yuan who desired to take one more step and was not satisfied with being immortal. But Fang Yuan did not choose it. He had his previous life's experiences. He could repeat his run on the blood path. He had other motives for coming into the true inheritance space. Thus, Fang Yuan let go and allowed the jade lump to fly away from him at a speed faster than the red light as it went into an unknown zone. You are really giving it up? When you think about this in the future, don't regret it. In his mind, Moyo sighed. Regret? Hiki, there is no such word in my life. Fang Yuan laughed lightly, continuing his search. He swam in the darkness for a while, discovering the third light lump. This light lump was shining with a gray light. Its speed was even faster than the first two light lumps. It was like a shooting star. As it flew into space, there was a frost-colored tail trailing behind it. Fang Yuan tried to get close to it, but Moyo said, actually, you don't have to take such a risk every time, since you have already collected many wisdom path Gu worms. Why don't you display their true value? Oh, what do you mean? Fang Yuan's speed did not get any slower. Lad, thank me well. The move I'm going to teach you will allow you to avoid the test of the true inheritance and search for the content of the true inheritance directly. Moyo's method was not very complex. After Fang Yuan found the true inheritance light lump, the first step was for his consciousness to enter the lump, and that would trigger the test of the inheritance. Moyo's advice was to use wisdom path Gu worms to create wills. By injecting this will into the true inheritance, he would wait for a while before recalling it. This way, he would be able to avoid intimate contact with the true inheritance. It was an opportunist method. Wisdom path has thought, will, and emotion. The so-called mind is made up of heart sense and divine sense. When your mind enters, your thoughts are exploring and interacting. Thoughts are like water droplets. They are the easiest to create, and also the most fragile. Because the numbers are huge, the droplets will merge into a river and enter to do the investigation. During this process, the Gu master's mind has to continue creating them without any pauses. As for will, they are superior to thoughts, like an ice cube. They have greater defense but are harder to create. They can, however, move independently and recalled when needed. Moyo explained. Fang Yuan was silent. Lad, at this point in time, why are you hesitating? I know you have been collecting information on Wisdom Path, and also purchasing those Wisdom Path Gu worms. Your special will Gu, deliberate will Gu, play will Gu, keep will Gu, and new will Gu are all useless now. When will you use them? Moyo laughed alluringly. Pausing for a while, she continued urging. Right now, you must already be clear. My will is residing in your mind. It is already deeply connected to you. When you use these Gu to create wills, they would be pure and flawless. I cannot infiltrate them. Haven't you been wary of me? This method has a huge advantage. You can use it to avoid those true inheritance tests and check the secrets of the unparalleled inheritances. Unparalleled inheritance. They have much greater value than ordinary inheritances. What are you? Fang Yuan's gaze was hesitant. All along, he had never been so outspoken about his situation with Moyo. To think that Moyo would talk about it openly like this now. What was her true intention? Was it really like what she said? She only wanted to return the rank 7 Immortal Gu House Water Pavilion back to Spirit Affinity House. Moyo's honest expression created ripples in Fang Yuan's heart. Maybe he was too vigilant and was too wary of Moyo? But wills were not like thoughts. Thoughts were simple and were not good at deception. A land spirit formed from obsessions only spoke the truth, but wills were different. They were the product of many thoughts fusing together. They were much more complex than thoughts. Thus, they could lie to others. Fang Yuan shook his head, sending these chaotic pieces of information out of his mind. Now was not the time to think about this. Honestly speaking, Mo Yao's words were truly useful in Fang Yuan's viewpoint. He was successfully convinced to attempt it. Fang Yuan took out the wisdom path goo worms that he had bought. He had the land spirit little who immortal and could connect to treasure yellow heaven at any time. Standing on the foundation of a goo immortal, it was extremely easy for him to purchase mortal goo. Right now, the 8 wisdom path goo worms in his hands could produce wills, but they were all different. Special will goo could produce special wills. It could only be activated under special circumstances. Deliberate will goo could create deliberate wills. When such a will is produced, it would be like carvings on a steel board, extremely difficult to get rid of compared to other wills. Play will goo creates playful wills. It is the will that is most capable of creating emotions. There are also keep will goo, new will goo, battle intent goo, and others. What was worth mentioning was that these wisdom path goo worms could produce different types of wills that were effective against other wills. For example, special will goo can produce special wills, but can also devour special wills. Deliberate will goo can create deliberate wills. They were hard to get rid of, but if one uses the right methods and finds the deliberate will goo, it can be easily removed. Why did Fang Yuan buy these goo worms? It was because of this. He wanted to deal with Mo Yao's mysterious will. But he had already bought so many of these goo and discovered that none could deal with Mo Yao's will. With the current situation, choosing which will goo to use was not important. He casually chose the special will goo. Injecting primeval essence as a will was formed. The appearance of the will was similar to Fang Yuan. He looked like a youth with dark eerie eyes, but different from the main body. His face was more manly and had a more decisive expression. Wills can only reside within the soul. If you want to send this will out, you will need a small soul worm. Mo Yao reminded. Small soul goo was a rank 1 goo in soul path. It was very common but was the foundation of soul path. Many higher rank soul path goo worms were refined step by step with it as the foundation. Mo Yao's reminder was redundant. Before she finished speaking, Fang Yuan summoned a goo worm. It had no solid body. It was palm-sized and looked like a butterfly, flickering like light and shadow. If someone grabbed it, they would not be able to catch its hollow body. It was the rank 2 big soul worm. Fang Yuan patted it lightly, sending his special will into the big soul worm's body. Next, he used the big soul worm and made it fly to the closest lump of green-white true inheritance light lump. The big soul worm's speed was much faster than him moving alone. In just a short moment, it entered the true inheritance light lump, and a while later, the big soul worm with a tattered body flew back while wavering. Fang Yuan retrieved his will and looked. This third true inheritance was also an ordinary true inheritance, but to some goo masters, or even goo immortals, it had much greater value than the first 2 true inheritances. Chibi General more valuable than tips for ascending to rank 6. Chapter 599, Longevity, Hard, Hard, Hard. 599 Longevity, Hard, Hard, Hard Translator. Chibi General Editor. Chibi General, the third true inheritance, had huge value because it talked about the method of extending lifespan. The saying goes, better to live a bad life than have a good death. Unless there were special reasons, there was nobody who wanted to stop living or not live longer. GU Masters, although they could cultivate, and reaching rank 6 would improve the essence of their life, they could not gain lifespan directly. Ever since the way of goo had developed, countless talents had tried all sorts of methods to create a method to extend their own lifespan, like 1st Gen Gu Yuan Qing Mao Mountain, who chose to become a zombie, or the demonic path goo master in Southern Border Century Boy, using the return to childhood goo on himself to maintain a child's appearance and reduce the speed of the loss of his life force. These were only mortal methods. Goo immortals had even more mystical methods. This third inheritance was a lifespan increasing method targeted at goo immortals. The person who created it was none other than Giant Sun Immortal Venerable, a lifespan increasing method created by an immortal venerable. One could imagine the value of this true inheritance. According to the content, on a certain year, month, and day, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had an inspiration, and it created a brilliant idea that he named this immortal art, possession. The core was a rank 6 possession immortal goo. Other than that, there were about 3,000 rank 5 mortal goo of all kinds. To think that possession immortal goo's origin is actually here. Fang Yuan looked at this with a palpitating heart. In his previous life, during the chaotic battle of the 5 regions, possession immortal goo had been extremely well known. Many high-ranking goo immortals managed to extend their lifespan, and that changed the situation of the 5 regions battle. Although possession immortal goo was rank 6, it was a crucial goo worm that could change the very structure of the world. In an instant, Fang Yuan had a sudden urge. This is the origin of the possession. Immortal goo, as long as he took it and grasped the origin. In the future during the 5-region battle, he would be able to sell this possession immortal goo and gain a terrifying profit. Especially with his previous life's memories, he knew who had the greatest need for this possession immortal goo. As long as he planned properly, the benefits were unthinkable, but soon, Fang Yuan calmed down. The special will on the big soul worm sent even more information. This true inheritance was only an empty shell. The possession immortal goo inside along with the 3,000 mortal goo had all been taken away by someone already. Inside 88 True Yang building, there were 88 true inheritances that were set up by Giant Sun Immortal Venerable. But after so many years, a portion of them had already been taken by people. Mo Yao had once said, during her time, when she explored 88 True Yang building, out of the 88 true inheritances, only 53 were left. That Mo Yao was an expert from 10,000 years ago. As 88 True Yang buildings rounds were hard to pass, for every 10 years of the Imperial Court contest, there were very few occasions in which a winner reached 10 edges. But even so, after so many years, there were some capable individuals who managed to enter the true inheritance secluded domain. The number of true inheritances left now was definitely smaller than 53. This is, while communicating with the special will on the big soul worm, Fang Yuan's pupils expanded suddenly. Although the true inheritance was taken away, Fang Yuan's special will still made some shocking discoveries. Using the soul to take over a body, it is nothing but a struggle at death's door. Death is still unavoidable. To extend one's life, lifespan goo is the best option. The road of a goo immortal is filled with calamities and tribulations. It is hard for the body to resist them, and it is hard for the soul to exist independently. The maintenance of longevity means the defiance of heaven. It is hard, hard. Inside the true inheritance, there was such a paragraph. These words directly criticized Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's method of possession. The tone was simply too arrogant. After looking at multitudes of lifespan extending methods, lifespan goo still remained as the best choice. The final 3 hard words were truly filled with emotions. Finally, the person who wrote this also left his name, Spectral Soul Demon Venerable. Seeing this name, one would feel that it was only natural for the criticism to exist. Spectral Soul Demon Venerable and Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had the same status. They were both rank 9 goo masters. But Giant Sun Immortal Venerable was an immortal venerable during the medieval antiquity era, while Spectral Soul Demon Venerable was a demon venerable who appeared after Giant Sunday, 200,000 years after Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's demise. The demonic path Venerable Spectral Soul, who had the greatest nature for murder, was born. 88 True Yang building had such a huge reputation. When Spectral Soul Demon Venerable was invincible in the world, he naturally found his way into 88 True Yang building. It was nothing strange. Don't tell me possession immortal goo was taken by Spectral Soul Demon Venerable? No, the possibility is very slim. Spectral Soul Demon Venerable was the creator of Soul Path. He was the greatest expert in terms of souls. Not even Giant Sun Immortal Venerable could match him in that. From the words that Spectral Soul Demon Venerable left behind, he had no interest in the possession method at all. He wanted to exist alongside heaven and earth, but he as one person was facing increasing difficulties one after another. Seeing that a predecessor had also searched for a longevity method, he felt some deep emotions and left behind these words. Fang Yuan analyzed. Even rank 9 venerables invincible in the universe during their time could not resist the flow of time. Time was the greatest enemies of heroes and beauties. Lifespan goo was hard to find. Their location was fixed, and they were produced in limited supply. Only heaven and earth could create them naturally. The rank 9 venerables searched the lands, using up all of the lifespan goo, but failed to find new lifespan goo. Thus they can only find new ways to extend their lives. The number 1 people in this world, behind their invincible authority, there was the sadness and anxiety towards their limited lifespan. Thus, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's possession technique made spectral soul demon venerable lament about the difficulty of longevity. Even immortal venerables or demon venerables, such invincible beings, cannot escape the fate of death. Sigh, the wheel of fortune goes round and round. They may rule for generation after generation, but after their primes they will inevitably break down, and those at rock bottom can have their fortunes reverse. In this world, can there be any eternal existences? In his mind, Emo Yao had a heavy emotion as she sighed deeply, but this was not what Fang Yuan thought. He had an eerie gaze. The great Tao of heaven and earth focuses on the balance of all beings and the restraints they place on each other. But when a Gu master cultivates, they search all over the world and gather resources, using them to promote the growth of oneself. Thus this is really the path that defies the way of heaven. Maybe this is why tribulations and calamities occur. But precisely so, eternal life that surpasses longevity is the goal that is worth my pursuit. Thinking so, there was a fire burning in his heart, becoming brighter and hotter. Immortal venerables and demon venerables could only have a long life, but his goal was the greater level of eternal life. This was a realm that venerables could not reach. Using a phrase from Fang Yuan's previous world, that would be competing against heaven, competing against earth, competing against humans. The joy is endless. Water can only produce beautiful waves when they hit on rocks. People can only feel the joy in life when they engage in competition. In Fang Yuan's previous life, he was only rank 6, close to 7 towards the rank 9 existences. He had never looked up to them. He only felt a strong aspiration in his heart. Here, he saw another side of the venerables: fatigue, weakness, helplessness. These made his fighting spirit surge to another level. The true inheritance ahead of him was empty. It was not worth wasting time for. Fang Yuan continued searching. Next, he found 2 ordinary inheritances. They were all involving wisdom path. These 2 true inheritances had 2 rank 6 immortal Gu, respectively. Point 1 was false emotion fake, Gu, and the other was loving affection Gu. Giant Sun immortal venerable's wisdom path attainment was very profound. This was a well-known fact. Especially in terms of emotion Gu, he had expanded it and created many new Gu recipes. Giant Sun immortal venerable created a harem and collected beauties, making girls all over the world fall for him. This showed the power of his emotion Gu. These 2 inheritances were not what Fang Yuan wanted. He chose to let go. Strange. Didn't you say that there were not only ordinary true inheritances, but also unparalleled inheritances in this secluded domain? After searching for such a long time, why haven't I found one? Fang Yuan was confused and asked Emo Yao. During this period, Emo Yao had not said a word. She seemed to have taken a blow from the possession immortal art. Her fighting spirit had dwindled, and she had hidden in Fang Yuan's mind without showing herself. Hearing Fang Yuan's words, she showed her figure and said plainly, "Humph, how long has it been? You are already impatient? Back in my day, I searched for a whole 3 months. The secluded domain is extremely huge, and all the inheritances are moving around. There are only a few unparalleled true inheritances. It is normal that you have not found one. Have some patience, lad." Fang Yuan asked again. "Actually, you came here before. What good inheritances did you find? Give me some details about it." This was his true question. "Humph, I saw many inheritances, of course, but here, the true inheritances fly around random with no pattern. There is no use in telling you. You can only rely on your luck to search. Beware of the time. The more inheritances you come into contact with, or the longer you stay here, the faster these true inheritances fly, and the more dangerous your situation becomes. Back then, with my Gu immortal realm, I could only stay for 3 months, and nearly died here." As Emo Yao said this, her tone was filled with lingering fear. "Even you almost died here?" Fang Yuan saw the main point in her words. "Lad, you are immortal. You are too weak. I estimate that you can only check 8 true inheritances and can stay for at most a month. Right now, you have already seen 5 inheritances. You have to be careful." Emo Yao vaguely reminded him. "What was it that threatened the life of a grand Gu immortal like yourself?" Fang Yuan asked, but Emo Yao only smiled tenderly, saying, "If you are fated for it, you will know when you experience it." Before concealing herself, Fang Yuan's expression turned slightly grim. He had always held a suspicion in the video in his previous life. There were 11 Gu immortals from Central Continent. But after they entered the true inheritance secluded domain, after the omitted parts, there were only 9 of them who reappeared, all with injuries. Does that mean the 2 missing had died in the secluded domain? Sometimes, having this Mo Yao's will was advantageous. Fang Yuan had gotten Mo Yao's reminder and became more careful, slowly investigating. 3 days later, he got close to the 6th true inheritance and used the special Will Gu and Big Soul Worm to obtain the information inside the true inheritance. This inheritance came from Giant Sun, Immortal Venerable. It was similar to the 3rd inheritance in that they were both lifespan extending immortal arts. It involved a new path that Giant Sun, Immortal Venerable had created from researching Renzu. He called it Yin-Yang Path. To use this method, 2 Gu immortals, 1 male and 1 female, have to cooperate and copulate to achieve the result of one of their lifespans increasing. But there was a flaw that if one gains lifespan, the other must lose the same amount. In other words, it was transferring the lifespan of one person to another. This inheritance had also been taken by others already. The popularity of lifespan extending methods could be seen clearly here. This is the 6th true inheritance. Fang Yuan muttered, thinking of Mo Yao's reminder. According to Fang Yuan's endurance, he could see 8 true inheritances at most. Beyond this number, a huge crisis would descend upon him if he wanted to obtain a true inheritance. Fang Yuan needed to be careful now. After all, he only had 2 chances left, and at the same time he needed to be wary of the inheritance being emptied out already. 13 days later, Fang Yuan found the 7th true inheritance. This true inheritance light lump was the size of a washing basin. It was shining brightly in white light and had a stronger aura compared to ordinary inheritances. Lad, this will broaden your vision. This is an unparalleled true inheritance. In his mind, Mo Yao said, Chibi General translator longevity through Yin-Yang path, degree. No wonder it's hard. Chapter 600, Supreme True Inheritance. Unparalleled True Inheritance. Fang Yuan's gaze brightened upon looking at the lump of burning white light in the distance. He quickly took out special Will Gu and a Big Soul Worm. He condensed a will and moved it into the Big Soul Worm, looking as it flew towards the true inheritance light lump. Unparalleled true inheritances far surpass ordinary true inheritances. I want to see what is so different about it. Fang Yuan was waiting expectantly. But an unexpected thing happened as the Big Soul Worm approached closer to the true inheritance light lump. Fang Yuan sensed his connection with the Big Soul Worm was weakening. When the Big Soul Worm had not even reached 300 steps from the light lump, the connection between it and Fang Yuan had thoroughly broken. What is this situation? Fang Yuan was startled, looking at the unparalleled true inheritance flying away leisurely in its original orbit. And the Big Soul Worm he had released showed no signs of movement, being completely still. Saying it was dead was also not appropriate. But no matter how Fang Yuan commanded it, it quietly hovered without the slightest bit of response. This unparalleled true inheritance is not simple. Be careful. Mo Yao's will also gave a sound of surprise and warned Fang Yuan. What is going on? Fang Yuan curiously and cautiously approached the Big Soul Worm, picking it up for examination. There was no signs of injury on the Big Soul Worm, but the will that had been instilled into it was completely gone. Big Soul Worm was a rank 2 Gu, and its wild will was removed after being refined by Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan's will occupied its body, thus he could maneuver it like moving his fingers. But right now, Fang Yuan's will that was in it, refined into special will by using special Will Gu, had inexplicably disintegrated with not even a trace remaining. The Big Soul Worm had become completely ownerless. Anyone would be able to send a trace of their will and instantly refine it. This was also the reason why Fang Yuan could not command it regardless of what he did. The previous several times, Fang Yuan had exploited special will to probe out true inheritances, ingeniously avoiding the test of the true inheritance. This method had been proved successful time and time again. He had never expected it to fail before even verifying the unparalleled true inheritance. What was this unparalleled true inheritance hiding that could completely clear Fang Yuan's will? I remember. So it was this. Just as Fang Yuan was hesitating, Mo Yao suddenly spoke up. She laughed coquettishly. Kid, should I say it is your good luck or bad luck? There are not many unparalleled true inheritances, but there are not few either, and what you are encountering now is the most special among them. Please advise me. Fang Yuan's expression turned calm. I saw this true inheritance before, and it also left behind a deep impression on me. Back then, even I had to expend a lot of effort to approach it. Inside it is a rank 7 immortal Gu giant son, immortal venerable personally refined, called human Qi Gu. Its ability is mysterious and could even be said to be strange. Even I had to spend a lot to investigate it clearly. Mo Yao sighed. While Mo Yao was alive, she had been a rank 7 Gu immortal, a fairy of spirit affinity house with awe-inspiring reputation. However, she had to pay a considerable price to approach this true inheritance. Fang Yuan was only a mortal now. It was natural for him to not even be able to approach it. Human Qi Gu. Fang Yuan pondered over this crucial name. He had a realization and asked, could it have some relationship with the 3 elements of immortal ascension? Lad, your guess is correct. Mo Yao sighed and explained. In the advancement to Gu immortal, the 3 Qi of heaven, earth and human are particularly crucial. When advancing into a Gu immortal, you would need to completely shatter your aperture and take in the heaven Qi and earth Qi. The more heaven Qi and earth Qi you can take in, the higher your chance of succeeding. But heaven Qi and earth Qi cannot be accumulated limitlessly. They need to be on an equal level with human Qi. And human Qi is the sum of the Gu Master's own accumulation. The Gu Master's battle strength, toughness of their physical body, the depth of their soul, familiarity with Gu worms, understanding of heaven and earth, awareness of their own nature as well as luck, talent, aptitude, fortuitous encounters, insights, and so on would transform into human Qi when advancing to Gu immortal. The more the Gu Master has accumulated, the more man Qi they would have. The more man Qi there is, the more heaven and earth Qi they can take in, and the higher their chance of advancing to Gu immortal. And this man Qi Gu's purpose is to take in the man Qi of other people, purify them, and add it to oneself when advancing to Gu immortal, thereby greatly raising the chance of the breakthrough, as well as deepening the foundation and the potential of Gu immortals. Mo Yao's words greatly broadened Fang Yuan's vision that he could not help but praise. There is actually such an immortal Gu, created with such an idea. Terrific. In human history, Gu immortals had always been in extremely few numbers. The difficulty of advancing to a Gu immortal, among numerous famous rank 5 Gu masters, there might only be one who could successfully advance. Among the crucial keys of advancing to a Gu immortal, one was at the top, the Gu master's accumulation. Many Gu masters don't have deep accumulation. The man Qi they could condense when advancing to Gu immortal would be very little, but the amount of heaven and earth Qi instead appears in very high amounts. As such, the balance would not be reached. Heaven and earth Qi would suppress and swallow the man Qi. Finally, the Gu master would be assimilated by heaven and earth and perish. But if there was man Qi immortal Gu, this difficult test would be eliminated by collecting others' man Qi, purifying them and gathering it into one's body. Even if the accumulation is not enough, it would not matter. One could say. With man Qi immortal Gu, the chances of advancing to Gu immortal would increase to the extreme, raising the numbers of Gu immortals. And raising the numbers of Gu immortals would mean a distinct increase in a region's strength that no doubt. This was a Gu that could change the battle situation of the 5 regions. As long as the news was leaked, all super forces would fanatically rush over like ducks. However, man Qi immortal Gu was too strong. It was at rank 7, higher than the spring-autumn cicada currently. Fang Yuan had a mortal body. He could not endure the might of man Qi immortal Gu. His will had been devoured by the immortal Gu before it was even able to approach it, purified into a negligible amount of man Qi and stored. If not for Mo Yao giving the information, Fang Yuan would still be in the dark and unknowing of what happened. Man Qi Gu is definitely good, but it does not suit me. Fang Yuan regretfully glanced one final time at the burning white light lump and sighed, shaking his head before leaving in another direction without the least bit of reluctance. Man Qi Gu's realm was too high. Fang Yuan simply did not have the qualifications to control it. Man is the spirit of all living beings. Gu are the essence of heaven and earth. To Gu masters, Gu were tools. But Manchi immortal Gu was too strong. If it was an ice blade, Fang Yuan was an infant. He would be frozen by the cold aura let out by the ice blade before he even approached it. The most crucial point is that I cannot use Manchi immortal Gu. I need to break through from mortal to advance to Gu immortal. Before that, I simply cannot handle Manchi Gu. And if I become a Gu immortal, what would I need Manchi Gu for? Helping others. Manchi immortal Gu was not suitable for the lone Fang Yuan. Only those super forces would need it. Unless Fang Yuan formed his own force, he slowly flew around in the true inheritance secluded domain. Fang Yuan gradually comprehended something and said after a moment of silence, Mo Yao, I realized the danger you spoke of. Mo Yao smiled, not surprised. When Gu masters enter the true inheritance secluded domain, every time they come in contact with a true inheritance, or the longer the time they stay here, the faster these true inheritances would move around. Thus, urging the Gu masters to quickly choose a true inheritance. By the end, the true inheritances would move as fast as meteors. Gu masters simply would not be able to capture them. Because of this, the Gu masters could lose their lives at any minute. Pausing a while, Mo Yao continued, and the danger to life originates from the true inheritances. You saw the unparalleled true inheritance just before. Your will had not even neared it before it was refined into Manchi by Manchi immortal Gu. Think about it. If it crashes into you with the speed of a meteor, you won't have any time to dodge. What will happen then? Fang Yuan lightly snorted. He could completely imagine that scene, that if a mortal body was struck by the burning white light lump, no matter their physical body, soul, or will, everything would probably disintegrate and be refined into Manchi. Like I said before, you are too weak, only at the mortal realm. Even the tests of the ordinary true inheritances are a difficult hurdle to you. Unparalleled true inheritances are even more troublesome. Let me tell you, there is a higher level of inheritance above unparalleled true inheritance, supreme true inheritance. Mo Yao revealed a sensational piece of information, supreme true inheritance. In this whole true inheritance secluded domain, there are only 3 supreme true inheritances. Mo Yao sighed with deep emotions, seemingly immersed in the depths of her memory. It is simply impossible for a mortal to receive these 3 supreme true inheritances. The difficulty of an unparalleled true inheritance is already extremely high. Moreover, Imperial Court Blessed Land prohibits the entry of Gu immortals. This is also the reason for 88 True Yang building being able to stand tall for so long. Among the 88 true inheritances, there are still over half remaining. Fang Yuan carefully pondered and approved of Mo Yao's words. Entering true inheritance secluded domain was extremely difficult, and the opportunity was very uncertain. First of all, one needed to be the winner of the Imperial Court contest held every 10 years. Secondly, they needed to complete at least 10 floors of 88 True Yang building. Finally, after entering, they still needed to successfully pass the test of the true inheritance that in other words, every 10 years, among the many heroes of Northern Plains, there would only be one who would rise above others and take control of the owner token. Simply relying on the owner token was still not enough. The winner must have a strong force which should not be exhausted too greatly in the Imperial Court contest, and also should have enough experts beside him. His force should have enough talents in all fields and involving a wide range of paths. Only then could he hope to pass 10 floors. After fortunately being able to enter true inheritance secluded domain, the tests of the true inheritances would further wipe away a batch of these winners. The tests were very difficult. Even Fang Yuan, a reborn old monster, almost suffered a setback, let alone these people. What was more absurd was that even if they passed the test, would that true inheritance be coincidentally suitable for them? Not necessarily. Those who could reach this step were usually dragons among dragons, phoenixes among phoenixes, heroes among heroes, with all 3 aspects of aptitude, talent, and fortuitous encounters. Such characters would have extremely high aspirations and would naturally think about it a lot and look through more options that as such. By the time they could no longer stay within true inheritance secluded domain, it would be too late for regret. Who is to say they might not die here? The true inheritance's flying speed is getting faster. You have one more chance left. No matter which true inheritance it is, take it quickly and leave. Not good, leave. Just as she was persuading him, Mo Yao's tone suddenly changed and let out a startled cry. Fang Yuan turned his head around to take a glance and saw a true inheritance, the size of an adult man, blossoming with all kinds of mysterious colors, whizzing towards him. In the dark, secluded domain, it had a very long, dazzling, and burning tail trailing behind it that a light lump the size of a large bowl was an ordinary true inheritance, but a basin-sized light lump was an unparalleled true inheritance. Then what was a light lump the size of an adult? Fang Yuan instantly thought of the name, Supreme True Inheritance. In the whole true inheritance secluded domain, only 3 supreme true inheritances existed, and now, one was heading towards Fang Yuan.